Arnold Tulson.
I was in the Coast Guard, Chief Petty Officer in charge of the 83-367, the sub-chaser. Our main duties was to protect the shipping up and down our coast. In fact, we were all after German subs. You could come beside one ship and count 15, 16 more stacked at one time in the ocean, which had been torpedoed. It was a bad, bad time. His Majesty's ships come over and helped us patrol this coast, trying to rid the coast of the submarines and the menace. And that was one of the reasons that the HMS Bedfordshire was over here. Her and several of her sister ships come over to help us protect our coast.
We did not have in this country, we didn't have any anti-submarine fleet capable of doing the job. HMS Bedfordshire was one of a fleet of British anti-submarine vessels that came over to answer a very desperate call from the U.S. Navy for assistance against the submarine sinkings, which were reaching a crescendo in March and April of 1942.
The Bedfordshire was one of 24 that went across to the States. We sailed down to Norfolk, Virginia, then down to Morehead City, which was our base. And we worked from there, convoying, escorting, then patrolling.
In May 1942, HMS Bedfordshire was U-boat hunting off Ocracoke when tragedy struck.
That night, on May the 11th, we were tied up to the dock at the Coast Guard station. It was an awful boom. It shook the island. And just a minute or two later, there were another one. And that what got my curiosity up for to come over here the next morning and look and see if I could find out what happened or see what was along the shore or what have you.
Arnold was to recover 4 bodies from the ocean. There were no survivors from the Bedfordshire, but there was one miraculous escape. The night before the Bedfordshire sailed, Sam Nutt had been picked up by the Morehead City Police and detained.
I never did know what the Americans were going to charge me with. I spent a day and a night in cells, and they let us out, and the American soldiers took us down to the dock to join the Bedfordshire. But she'd gone to sea. We had to go aboard another boat to go and look for the Bedfordshire. They was going to take us out to join the ship at sea. But when we got there was no trace of her at all.
It was assumed the Bedfordshire had been the victim of a U-boat attack. This was confirmed after the war in the captured patrol diary of U-558. She had sunk the Bedfordshire with one of her torpedoes.
There's a tremendous outburst of compassion on the part of the local citizenry hereabouts. These residents of this rather isolated island, they all recognize the fact that these chaps had given their lives in defense of, in effect, the United States at the time, and they are the ones who suddenly take this to heart and say, we're going to take care of it.
They did, and they continue to do so. The residents of Ocracoke created this corner of a Carolinian field that is forever England. It's a measure of the deep affection felt by a small American community for the crew of an obscure little ship that became a casualty of the U-boat war far from home.
I think they were a damn good crowd. And also a good bunch of lads. You can always replace a ship, but not 37 men. Why I come to miss that boat is there again is another story, only them up there can answer, I presume.
The Bedfordshire's loss was not in vain. The lessons taught by those 24 anti-submarine trawlers sent by Winston Churchill and Admiral King's belated introduction of convoying ended the U-boat mayhem in American waters.
When finally Admiral King was brought around to convoys, he then declared convoys are the only means for fighting U-boats. He became a very determined convert.
He realized from sheer bitter experience with all these ships going down off his own coastline that convoy must be adopted, that it was the only answer, And in June 1942, he actually did a dock convoy, and immediately the U-boat sinkings fell away sharply.
But it was too late for the hundreds of ships that had already been lost and the thousands of men who had already died.